That's the kind of human being who says to themselves, if experience is the best teacher, it's going to be my only teacher. Now, you learn, but you learn slow with that attitude.
Yeah, agreed.
And so, best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. If you've never bought a book to read to get better, you're not going to now, especially, once you've cleared age 30.
What would happen if we just told the truth?
Welcome to TruthWorks, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of leadership and work.
And what needs to change. I'm Jessica Neal.
And I'm Patty McCord.
Our journey together started in HR, but trust us, it's evolved into something wild, honest, and, well, a bit rebellious.
So throw out the handbook. We're here to redefine rules to work for us, not against us.
Let's dive into another episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TruthWorks. I am your host, Jessica Neal, and I'm here with my favorite co-host. Don't tell Jeff.
Right.
Peter Clark.
Hey,
Hi, Pete. How's it going?
Going well. Thank you. Yeah. Glad to be here.
All right, good.
Glad to
we
be
have
asked
an
back.
Interesting guest today.
Yes. Super excited.
I know. I'm excited because, I feel like this guest is going to give us all a lot of information. We're going to learn a lot. I have always thought about myself as being a good negotiator, but after kind of digging into what our guest talks about, I don't know if I am. I negotiated my entire career, but I learned a lot from him. And so today, everyone, we have Chris Voss on the show. He is a former FBI and negotiator for kidnapping. I mean, I don't even know where to start with all of that. He's the founder of the Black Swan Group, which helps everybody figure out how to get good at this. And he's the author of a wonderful book that has sold many, 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 many millions of copies called Never Split the Difference. We're going to talk about how to negotiate better with this expert, and we're going to learn all kinds of things today, like being silent and which is hard for me, but welcome to the show, Chris. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, I always like to go back in time because I love the stories of what led people to get to where they are. And you have had a fascinating career that not many people get to have. Maybe there's more than I think, but right. I don't think that there's a ton of, kidnap negotiators running around out there free in the world. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I was fortunate. The circumstances came together to create the position, and I held it for about 7 years. So yeah, I was very lucky.
Yeah. How did that happen? How did you get into the FBI and become this master negotiator in high stakes, mind you, situations?
Well, you're born in a small town in Iowa.
Okay.
You go up about an hour north to Interstate 80. You make a right.
Okay. That's where you grew up.
Yeah. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. I know I've got an accent slightly different from that, but yeah, I'm blue collar. Mm-hmm. Really, I think the essence for a kind of character like me, blue collar, is just hardworking, willing to dig in. I think of myself as a team player and maintain a sense of humor and get stuff done. Whatever the mission is, you gotta get it done.
What did your parents do?
My father was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Owned a small business, sole proprietorship. He never had any more than really 2 people working for him directly at any time. As I got older, the gas station business, which is kind of what he was in back in the 1960s and 70s, evolved into the convenience store business. So by the time I graduated college, he had a string of convenience store gas stations that he owned and operated.
So cool. And then,
did you ever work in the family business? Oh, sorry, yeah.
Were you kidding me? From the time I could walk, my father figured it. If he gave you a place to live and food to eat, then you're going to have to earn your keep. So every one of us started working. He paid us,
Yeah.
But we all started working pretty much as soon as we could figure out how to take out the trash.
Yeah, I need to think about that with my 6-year-old. He didn't work very hard. So drive up 80, make a right, and then what happens? Then you how do you get into the FBI?
After I went to college, 4-year degree, wanted to be in law enforcement, became a police officer, Kansas City, Missouri. Great town, phenomenal town, by the way. Great police department, really well-run police department. Then decided I wanted to go federal law enforcement. Originally wanted to go to the Secret Service because the allure of traveling all over the world appealed to me. And I had never really been hardly out of Iowa. Crossing the state line was a big deal, when I grew up.
Yeah.
And the Secret Service wasn't hiring, the FBI was.
Okay.
So I didn't really know the difference, the federal alphabet, DEA, FBI, CIA. I didn't know what any of those were.
Right.
But I caught on with the FBI. It was a great job. Ended up in New York City, Joint Terrorist Task Force. Had a stop in Pittsburgh on the way where I was on a SWAT team.
Okay. Ooh.
And then between SWAT injuries and the lure of crisis response, then I tried to apply for the hostage negotiation team in New York. Was rejected, but then did some extra work, went out on my own, did a whole bunch of extra stuff to become qualified. Hostage negotiator. Was lucky enough, I was involved in New York with a bank robbery with hostages, which is, movies make it seem like it happens all the time. In real life, it's an extremely rare event.
Yeah. So was that your first one?
That was the first big deal, and it was so rare, and one of the bank robbers surrendered to me personally outside the bank. And then a big thing, if you're in hostage negotiation, the best way to maintain your skills is to teach it in anything. I mean, because you're horrified that somebody's going to call you out for not knowing what you're talking about. So
right.
I'd spent a lot of time on a suicide hotline, which is applied emotional intelligence.
For training?
Yeah. I mean, it's real life emotions. I mean,
yeah.
Simulated negotiations, and even when I was teaching at Georgetown and Harvard at USC, simulated negotiations are not great practice.
Mm-hmm.
You need real, actual emotional responses to get the feel. Like, I get people that work for me in sales now. Some of the training exercises I put them through, we go to the grocery store and ask directions. Because I think you mentioned earlier, we're in negotiations all the time. One of the things we negotiate for is information.
Uh-huh.
Asking directions, especially from somebody who's not there to give you directions.
Right.
And a dude stacking produce in a grocery store is not there to be your tour guide.
Right.
So it's a great way to practice. How do you say something to light that person up? That, like the last time I asked for, my girlfriend sends me to the grocery store to look for Brussels sprouts. Now, what was it? Broccoli sprouts.
Okay.
Now, the picture I have in my head does not resemble what they are actually looking like.
I've tried to find them.
So I promise you that I walked by those things 5 times without realizing. And I feel like this big dope, and finally I'm like, I know who knows where it is. It's a produce guy who's going to claim he doesn't actually work for the grocery store. He works for the produce deliverer and doesn't know where it is because he ain't there to give directions. He's there to put produce in the display and get out of the way.
Right.
So how do you make this guy feel great about giving you directions? And I will, because I'm going to do an advertisement here.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to move this over here. 2 guys on my team, they just put out a book
Fight Less, Win More.
Fight Less, Win More. It's a companion to Never Split the Difference.
Okay.
So one of the authors of that, Jonathan, gave me this opener, which works especially with people that are there who know where everything is, but it's not their job to give directions. So I walk up to the produce guy and I say, "You look important." And he brightens up. And well, no, no, I just,
Just produce,
I just produce. And I go like, dude, I can't find the broccoli sprouts. And now most of the time when somebody gives you directions, they point and they go over there.
Yeah.
And you don't know where the heck over there is. He walks me over to them and points them out. And I'm like, thank God, because this is not what I thought they looked like.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't think I actually know what a broccoli sprout looks like. I'm going to have to Google it.
It doesn't look like regular broccoli. I figured it was regular broccoli on a sprout, and it ain't there. So when if you're not a cook, you don't know how to find this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's that you made him feel important.
Yeah, I did, and that's what I used actually was a very specific skill. It's called a label, which is an observation, a verbal observation. By navigating human emotions, you can't plant emotions, but you can amplify positives and you can deactivate negatives. And the observation of a positive, like, of course, deep down inside, what this guy's telling himself is, I put out food here that makes people healthy. Like the fact that I work hard to keep this stuff clean, I stack it orderly, putting out vegetables that people can consume and be healthier is actually a complicated supply chain job. So this poor schmuck who's making, I don't know, $15, $16 an hour actually has an important job and is an underappreciated human being. The vast majority of people are underappreciated.
Yeah, they just walk by.
Yeah, and he knows where everything is. Like, in point of fact, this dude is a valuable guy. He knows where everything in the store is.
Yeah.
And so I'm just observing something that's true, and he feels it deep down inside, but nobody really notices it. So that amplifies me about 10 times. Plus, on top of that, when I walk away from this guy, it's probably the best he's felt all day. And I kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got little goosebumps when you said that. Okay, but I want to, before, because we're going to get into like a lot of advice and tactics and things, but I want to go back to that massive bank negotiation because I'm curious. So what did that feel like when that guy surrendered to you?
Yeah, it was surreal for a lot of reasons. The thing had been going on at that point in time for almost 8 hours. We had swapped negotiators. We had a blended hostage negotiation team, the FBI and the NYPD. The NYPD commander named Hugh McGowan was running the negotiations. Hugh was an extremely talented guy. Had put me on as a swap in negotiators to disrupt what was going on. Disrupt in a gentle way, but a very intentional disruptive move.
That's a tactic y'all use.
If the circumstances call for it, a disruption is a good idea. Now, what you want to do is disrupt in a non-threatening way, and most of the time people disrupt in a very threatening manner. And in any negotiation, whether it be a hostage negotiation or a business negotiation, one side will swap negotiators not to be nicer, but to be tougher.
It's like good cop, bad cop.
You never change to be nicer.
Yeah.
You change to take a harder line. And so the challenge is to take a harder line in a more gentle way. And that was a very specific coaching that Hugh gave me. And then a great negotiation is a team event, which means the people with you are not, if they're really helping you, they're listening with you, for you. They're not waiting for their turn to speak. And so in the midst of the negotiations, one of the negotiators on my team, a guy named Jamie Sedania, heard a couple things that nobody else heard. And he passed me a note at 2 critical points in time. I am coachable. Many negotiators, they don't want to be bothered. I got this. They want to be a diva. Yeah. They want to be a soloist. I'm coachable. And at 2 critical times, Jamie passed me the notes. And with everything that I had, emotional intelligence that I had applied up to that point in time, with Jamie's insight, I had the guy surrendering to me personally out in front of the bank.
Wild.
One thing you mentioned was that you applied to hostage negotiation for NYPD and they rejected. Which one rejected you? Because then all of a sudden you're in there doing this. So
right.
Or was that part of the process? We reject you and you negotiate your way to the job.
See how resilient you are, right?
Yeah.
No, I was on the FBI's hostage negotiation team. I had gone to the woman that was in charge of the negotiation team probably about 2.5 years before the bank robbery. And I just thought volunteering was enough, and I was not qualified. And she made it clear to me that I was unqualified. She's, my kind of, she's, if I say it in the finest way, she's a tough New York chick, and that's my kind of girl.
Yeah.
And she was just like, kind of, no, you're not qualified, and go away. But I said, look, there's got to be something I could do. And she said, yeah, go volunteer on a suicide hotline. Now, until you've done that, don't bother me.
Yeah. And now, what did you think in that moment? Were you like, that's not an...
No, I didn't think it was hard.
No, I feel like that's such a critical time for a person.
Well, my whole life...
Hard emotionally for everybody.
You got it. Well, volunteering on a suicide hotline?
Mm-hmm. Like helping people talk people off the ledge?
If you go to learn a skill, it's fascinating. I went to learn.
Right.
In hindsight, I've always believed in investing in myself. Mm-hmm. But actually doing it, for as far back as I could remember, I would go out and take training. And on my own time, I'd do extra. I was thinking about this the other day because that's a characteristic of a person who's coachable. Everybody says they're coachable, but like if I were to ask you this, when's the last time you bought a book to get better? A lot of people, I'm on a plane next to an extremely influential person in the professional medical community a couple of years ago. And one of the people on a plane says, "Hey man, I want you to know that I made $1 million on one deal from what I read in your book." And so this guy is sitting next to me in the medical community. He's a loud dude and kind of annoying. And he's like, "Hey, why did you say you made $1 million as a result of reading your book? What's your book?" And I looked at him and I said, "Have you ever bought a book to get better at a soft skill?"
Probably not.
And he thought for a second and goes like, "No." That's the kind of human being who says to themselves, if experience is the best teacher, it's going to be my only teacher. Now you learn, but you learn slow with that attitude.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. If you've never bought a book to read to get better, you're not going to now, especially, once you've cleared age 30.
Yeah.
And I said, I could tell you the title of the book, but you're not going to buy it. And if you did buy it, you wouldn't read it. And he literally says to me, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Yeah.
That guy's not coachable.
Right.
So not everybody believes enough in themselves to take the time to listen to a podcast to learn.
Yeah.
That's one of the
reasons why I love doing the podcast is I learn every time I do it. I learn from the person that we have on.
And with natural curiosity, then you help people who actually want to get smarter and get better and be entertained at the same time. It's a very cool thing to host a podcast, and I'm grateful to be with you.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to have you. I was just thinking about this element of emotional intelligence that you brought up. Is that key to being good at this? Do you have to have really high EQ, or can people that have high IQ also thrive?
You can try, but it's going to take you longer. I read a book a long time ago, an article called The Habits of Unskilled Negotiators. And if you have a high IQ and you haven't learned EQ, you kind of want to show people how smart you are, which is not about hearing what they have to say. Nobody feels heard if you're showing them how smart you are. Now, emotional intelligence is making somebody feel like they're the center of your universe. I'll give you an example. I loved it. Robert Greene's book, The Laws of Seduction. He talks about the different seducing types, if you will. And one of them is the charmer. And then there's a quote from a woman. She said, I went to this dinner and I talked to this guy and I thought he was the most interesting person I ever met. Then I went to another dinner and I talked to this guy and he made me feel like I was the most interesting person he ever met.
Yeah.
Now that's the second. The real tactical empathy, emotional intelligence. It's like, if I'm curious about you, you're the most interesting person I ever met. Mm-hmm. That's what makes the impression on people, and you don't create that impression by showing them how smart you are.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Tactical empathy, I think when you say it out loud, it sounds a bit of an oxymoron, right? Because it's an empathy supposed to be I think it's, I'm feeling, and then you've got, but tactically I'm trying to get something. So, but I love the term. But I'd love, explain that a little bit more.
Well, it was when the book first came out. The book's been out 10 years now, which is cool because it's still number one. Empathy was seen as this soft, weak skill. Way back when Hillary Clinton first ran for president, and she talked about using empathy with America's adversaries internationally, and she was just torn apart for it because empathy, how dare you? That's soft. And in point of fact, it's not. So we put tactical in front of empathy originally, sort of the same reason why you can't teach a Navy SEAL how to do yoga breathing, but you can teach them tactical breathing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a rebranding. I love it. Yeah.
It was some rebranding. And then as it turns out, it's neuroscience based, and the neuroscience backs up the reality that it works. And so tactically, you're applying neuroscience to communication so that somebody feels heard and bonds with you consequently.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about we're constantly negotiating, but let's put it in the context of work. Like,
Right.
we're constantly negotiating at work, whether it's your salary or how much time you're going to spend on it or when you're going to get a task done, like whatever. So what do people mostly get wrong with negotiations at work?
The idea that you need to be heard before you make the other side feel heard. Or that, 7 Habits of Highly Successful, Stephen Covey.
Yeah, that's a good one.
One of his habits was seek first to understand, then be understood. People don't understand. They seek first to demonstrate understanding. If I understand you, that doesn't mean you feel understood, that I've shown that I comprehend where you're coming from. And frequently this extra effort, especially in a disagreement, to show you see where the other side's coming from. You can even say, look, before I disagree, this is what I think how I think you see this. Like, that extra effort will seal half of your deals on the spot, like on the spot. And most people think what they got to do is they got to make their argument first. Business school trains you, make your elevator pitch, which is your value proposition, only since it's so painful to listen to, it's just got to be shorter. And it's still painful for a short period of time.
Yeah.
It's about speaking first and listening, hearing first, showing comprehension first is the move.
Well, let's talk about like an actual thing. Like, let's talk about I want to make more money. Right? I think I should get paid more. How do I do that?
Okay, so you got first, empathy is about understanding how the other side sees it. So without enough preparation and demonstration of understanding, how does a boss see this? You just walked into their office and you want to get paid more for doing the same thing. I want a raise. Okay, you want a raise. That means you want me to pay you more for doing the same thing, which means you want to make us less profitable. That's not saying that's the case. That's how the other side sees it. Nobody walks into the boss's office to help the boss out. Like, the moment you clear that doorway, he knows you're there for yourself. So you seem selfish.
Yeah.
So what you really want is to negotiate your career and let your salary follow. Now, if you start negotiating your career, the best career is you're a team player. You want to focus on stuff that's important to the company. So you want to get paid more. You walk into the boss's office and you say, how can I be guaranteed to be involved in projects that are critical to the strategic future of this company? Now, all of a sudden, the boss is like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like, you want to be a team player? Yeah. You want to make me look good? Because if I got a superstar working for me, then I look like I developed you. Now, all of a sudden, the boss is listening. This is your opportunity to get involved in high-value operations. Maybe they had you count paper clips, but the thought that you want to do stuff that helps everybody, that's what creates a valuable employee, negotiates your career advancement. Because your salary pays your bills, it doesn't advance your career. You want to be involved in the stuff that advances your career. Secondarily, your salary comes along behind. If it doesn't, then you did monumental things that make you that much more attractive to somebody who is going to pay you.
Right. That is good. I think, I think about this also, like when you're starting a new job. And Pete, I think you've probably seen this too. Like, there's, we get really excited about somebody we're going to hire. They've got the best experience. And then they come in and they start negotiating for salary. And you're like, this person is just demanding, out of touch, like it, and they ruin the whole deal. And there's oftentimes, because of how they handled that situation, where at Netflix we would walk away. We're like, oh, yeah. So what's that about?
I think people get the wrong idea. I think they've been given bad guidance. I think it's a huge mistake. First of all, they didn't focus on a relationship. Mm-hmm. There's so much bad guidance.
Yeah.
The job description lays things out in advance. And a job description also always lays out salary ranges. And so if you walk into a job application and then begin to ask for something outside the salary range, the other side is going to presume that you're deceptive. Because, here's a set of parameters. Don't walk into this interview unless, by and large, you agree to these parameters. And so to come in and to change the salary is it makes the other side mistrust you. When I joined the FBI, there was no cost of living across the board in the FBI. So an FBI agent in New York City, which is where I ended up, got paid the same amount of money as an FBI agent in Omaha. You can imagine cost of living was radically different.
Yeah. Rather be in Omaha.
So the guy that hired me in Kansas City said, don't take this job if you can't go to New York. And I'm like, all right, you've been up front with me. You've laid out some expectations. 2 years later, I'm getting transferred to New York, and I'm like, I agreed this was part of the bargain. For me to all of a sudden act like, I'm surprised. I didn't think you guys really meant that.
Right.
You know, that would cause the other side to have misgivings about me. So if you come into a negotiation and you start asking for a salary that's outside the range of what the other side laid out in the beginning, you didn't feel you're negotiating in bad faith. But empathy is how the other side sees it, and they're going to see it as a bad faith negotiation.
Yeah, and there is just a lot of bad advice that I think people get on how to handle this. Yeah, and so don't listen to that. Please listen to Chris, because you'll save yourself a job.
Yeah, or a promotion. I mean, I teach a salary negotiation course. You guys asked me earlier, you know, what I want to let people know. We've got a professional deal maker day coming up May 15th. But I also teach a salary negotiation course, and we do that online. And I think it's coming up. It's either in June or July.
Okay.
And when I rewrote it last time around, I thought to myself, what would I tell my employees I want them to do so I could pay them more? You know, this is from an operational standpoint of how you can build your career, how you can get paid more. And I'm going to tell you straight out, which is the same thing I tell the people that work for me. Here, I want to pay you more. And here's the avenue to get there. It's got to be a collaboration with your boss. Otherwise, you're going to get fired. You're going to get passed over for promotion. You know, it's got to be a collaboration with your boss and your employer, and then you could prosper.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody take the course coming out in June or July. I'm sure Chris is going to tell us where to find all this at the end of the show. And then what's happening on May 15th? What do you have? What is it?
Well, we've got a one-day in-person. We call it Professional Dealmaker Day. Now, in-person training, there's an energy to being in person.
Yeah.
You're in a room with people that are there to make deals. You're gonna bring us a deal that you want to get across the finish line that day.
Oh.
You know, don't if you haven't got stuff on the line where you need to make deals. Because we're going to give you the coaching, we're going to give you the preparation that if you follow the coaching and instruction, and that deal's a possibility, some negotiations you're the fool in the game.
Right.
We actually want you to figure that out too, because then you stop investing your most precious commodity, which is your time, in that. But you're going to be better off substantially if you come to one of our Professional Dealmaker Day, May 15th. If you're coachable, you want to come and prove to us that we're wrong. Fine. I hope you get satisfaction out of that.
Yeah.
Come and follow our advice. You're gonna make a deal that day.
I love it. So bring a real deal.
Bring a real deal.
Theoretical, as you said earlier, right? You know, it's a lot different when you're doing it for real.
How do you know if you're the fool in the situation?
All right, so at least 20% of negotiations, you're the fool in the game.
20%.
And the number's actually higher.
Okay.
But the other side's doing due diligence.
Okay.
Or your competing offer. Now, the business community thinks this is okay. So they don't mean to be playing you for the fool. They think this is, submit an RFP. Give us our RFP. Tell us how you're going to do this. Lay out your approach. The business world accepts that by and large and doesn't realize that they're wasting your time, but there's always a favor. Human nature makes its mind up anywhere from 50 to 80% before they even speak to you. So you gotta understand where they are. Are you competing bid? Are they due diligence? I get advised. We're looking for an HR consultant probably about 6 years ago now. So how do I find an HR consultant? I go to somebody I've already doing business with, my accountant at the time, because that's a trusted advisor, and I say, who do you recommend? Now I'm going to go with that recommendation, but he recommends a specific company, and then he says, go talk to XYZ Corp just to see what they have to say. XYZ Corp's not going to get that business.
Yeah.
They're in point of fact just to see what they have to say. And that's kind of standard operating in the business world. Now, what you want to do is you can sniff out if they're talking to you just to see what you have to say real easily.
Okay.
We'll go back to the negotiation skill I used to find the produce, the broccoli sprouts.
Yeah.
An observation. In this case, the observation with someone I suspect might still be shopping is I'm simply going to say, sounds to me like you guys are still shopping around. 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell me what the truth is. I've got another guy who's dedicated. He's still addicted to yes. So he'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do we rank on that we're going to get this deal? Now, what happens when he does that scale question? If they hesitate, that's because you got a low number. If they hesitate, a guy like, wow, you got a good chance.
Yeah.
But if you're the favorite in the game, they're going like, oh, 9 out of 10. They'll tell you right away.
Yeah.
Because it feels so good for them to give you that information. And they're very caught off guard.
Right. And I think people are afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Well, they're afraid of the answer.
Right. Exactly. They want to know, but they don't want to know.
And when you think about it, hope is not a strategy.
Right. Love that.
You might not like the answer.
Yeah.
But if you go from wondering if you're the fool in the game to knowing, then now you move on. No hard feelings. And you stop spinning your wheels.
Right. And you can stop wasting your time because it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
Right. It's fascinating. Pete, what do you want to know? Because I have a couple more.
Yeah. No, so I think I mentioned before we jumped on this, Chris, that I work at a venture capital firm on the talent side. So spend a lot of time chatting with founders about, building teams. And I think inevitably in all of that process is a lot of negotiation. I think the compensation one is interesting, just in terms of, and I don't, know what advice you'd have from a CEO founder perspective too, of like entering the conversation if they're across the table from someone who comes in, sort of lacking the self-awareness and or blowing up the deal. Just, I think from the CEO's perspective or the founder's perspective, what advice around just entering that conversation, unless it's the same, just in terms of how do I approach these negotiations in a way that, gets to a fair outcome? Or is it read the book and apply the same principle? But we do the salary negotiation from the employee side. I'm just curious, when you think about sitting on the other side of the table, what advice you give?
Oh, you mean like from the CEO?
If you're the CEO,
yeah, or the hiring manager, whoever's like kind of finally negotiating that compensation.
But who's talking to who again?
The hiring manager to the employee.
To the employee, the potential
employee.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how coachable they are. I want to know what the future looks like to them. Like, where are you going with this? Like, if things worked out wonderfully here, what would it look like to you? Vision drives decision. So it's as much to actually listen to the answer. A lot of people ask questions that they've got 3 or 4 responses pre-programmed for, and they want to, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, whatever you say, I'm going to put you in this door. You actually got to listen to the answer from the other side. Is the person, are they coming here because they got no alternatives to the job? What do they love about the possibility of working here? People can be great people hired for the wrong seat. One of my favorite stories, Keith Ferrazzi wrote a great book with my co-author, Tal Ross. Keith wrote Never Eat Alone. Now, it's a
good book. Yeah.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
Great book on networking. It is the book on networking.
Yeah.
Keith gets out of business school. He gets a job. Most business school students, MBA students, are had to run spreadsheets. Like, I don't know how that conversation to hire Keith coming out of business school went, but they were clearly looking for a guy to run spreadsheets, and Keith is not a spreadsheet guy. He is, however, a phenomenal business development guy and a relationship guy. So basically, he doesn't do his job during the week, but on his own time and on the weekends, he goes out and scares out a massive amount of business for the company. He's giving presentations on his own time. He's developing relationships. He's great at bringing relationships, profitable relationships, to an organization. An absolute star. And so at the end of the first year, his boss says, okay, so 1 of 2 things here. I either got to fire you because you didn't do what I hired you for, or I got to change your job description so you can do more of what you've been doing for the last year on your own time that's so valuable.
Right.
So they just changed the job description. So what am I driving at? That conversation with him from the beginning. You know, they were looking for a tiger, and what they got was a thoroughbred. You know, the expectations weren't excessively clear, or maybe they didn't hear what he had to say. You know, who knows? That wasn't a clear conversation. Not everybody's lucky enough to have Keith Ferrazzi sit in front of them where this guy's going to go out and just create wealth on his own time. So you really want to find out when you're interviewing an employee what lights them up, what makes them happy, what do they love about the opportunities.
Yeah.
These are the kind of questions to ask, and then actually pay attention to the responses, because you're not always going to be lucky enough to have a Keith Ferrazzi in front of you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of CEOs and founders, like, they also don't get always great advice, and they have, you know, a number in mind. They don't want to go above that number. To your point, it's the bottom line that they're thinking about. They're not always coming to the negotiation table with that, not only with the sort of impact to the business, but they're not coming to the conversation with any curiosity or empathy or emotional intelligence that they're going to apply to. They're just kind of like, I got to get them in for this price and get them as fast as I can.
Well, the person who's doing the hiring is keeping a lot of plates spinning.
Mm-hmm.
And to get them to confide in you, if you're interviewing for the job, I mean, you actually got to pay attention to the person on the other side. You're not there to make pitches. You're there to understand the possibilities of the relationship. And then, do you want to work there? Are you lit up by what their challenges are? This is kind of a two-way audition. And I think many sides don't really always see it that way.
Yeah.
And the more you look at it as any long-term relationship where both sides should prosper, then you want to find out who the other person is, who the other side is, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them.
You hopefully will. You never know. But okay.
So we got to a great answer there, but in spite of my horrible question. I think that's what I've just learned too. But yeah, that's like, we see a lot of come together in this conversation, and it's almost like, you know, you're sort of predisposed to negotiate against yourself. And you know, that's, I think, the advice that we try to give founders as well. You know, it's like you really need both folks to be taking this advice, right, in terms of getting to the right answer, because both sides seem to have been given bad advice and, you know, are working from that a lot of the time.
Yeah. True.
But thank you.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say bad advice, but I think a lot of people get a lot of average advice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Average is not great, though.
Right.
It's just average. So I think I want to talk about this idea of silence in negotiation, because I think it's an important tactic. I got better at it as I matured in my career. Like I got more comfortable just in the room talking about strategy or high stakes things, of sitting in silence, because I think it can be really powerful. But the way that I heard you describe it was there's something that happens in the brain, I think, and you talk about this 6 seconds. So can you explain that to us a little bit, unpack it?
Well, when I make you feel heard, if I come up with a really insightful observation, you look important, seems like you're still shopping around, seems like you've given this a lot of thought, it seems like you really put a lot of effort into this proposal. Any demonstration of appreciation, comprehension on my side, triggers neurochemicals in you, ideally oxytocin, the bonding and truth drug, serotonin, the drug of satisfaction. And if I trigger them with a great summary from your perspective, it's going to take at least 6 seconds for those neurochemicals to work their way through your system. So if I speak up, well, I've just made you feel really heard and appreciated. I just destroyed the effort that I put in to make you feel appreciated.
Right.
This is frequently the case with a summary. I actually had to make some adjustments to how my team was coaching it, because I summarize your perspective and then shut up. Whether your perspective is positive or negative, whether it's against me, especially if it's against me. What a lot of people are going to say is, did I get that right? Or what did I miss?
Or does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Exactly. Now, what I just did was I short-circuited the process that I just got started. You know, I summarized, look, you've been working really hard. This has been a really challenge for you. You've been through a lot of difficult times, and you've demonstrated a lot of resilience in what brought you to the table. Now, if I shut up there, that feeling of being heard is going to work its way through your system. If I lay all that out and then I go, did I get that right? And bang.
Done.
I just short circuited the whole process.
So then you lay it out and then you shut up.
Then you let the golden silence moments happen. And they are always valuable. They just are.
And it's 6 seconds.
Up to 6 seconds, which seems forever.
Eternity. Yeah.
Like, and depending upon who it is, Elon Musk has given an interview on Lex Fridman a couple of years ago. And Elon they sat there for 22 seconds in silence. And then Elon gives this great response. If Lex would have spoken up, that response never would have came.
Yeah, it would have short circuited it. So you have to do the 1/1000 too. It's not a quick 6 seconds.
Now it takes some practice to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
My son Brandon has done an awful lot of coaching in my company. He's out on his own now. He helped me start the company. Brandon used to tell people, start counting thousands to yourself. Don't quit till you run out.
Outside of just the oxytocin and the serotonin kind of taking place, is there a power in silence that is in the art of negotiation?
Depend upon the type. Now, there are 3 types: assertive, analyst, accommodator. Silence works on each one differently. The assertive is the combative type. The most visible example of an assertive would be Donald Trump. I would say that Jeff Bezos is also an assertive. Now, they want to feel heard and respected, which is a reason to summarize to them back what they said and how they feel about it. And then when that silence, then you'll find out whether or not they felt heard and respected, because that's either one of those guys. But any assertive, to be respected is more important than to be liked. Got to respect me. And so the silence is where I'm going to get a diagnostic, because they're going to give me verbal or visual cues if I'm off the mark. And I need to shut up to see how it's affecting them. And if they have more information for me, they will not hesitate to supply it. That's a great thing about an assertive. Like, you know where they're coming from. You may not like it, but you're going to know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Now, the analyst, Elon Musk, Lex Fridman, they feel silence is a bonding moment. And I heard Lex talk about it one time in an interview. He says, if he can sit in silence with people, he feels himself drawing closer to them. Again, it's still silence, but it's a completely different experience for the analyst than it is for the assertive. Now, the third type, the accommodator, the hope-oriented, the make friends type, the constantly upbeat, genuinely hopeful. They want to talk with you more. They want to connect with you more. Silence is an opportunity to connect with you on an even deeper level. So their silence, and they are concerned. If you go silent, they're concerned that you're upset. So they're going to dial into you even more because they want to connect with you even more. Again, it's the exact same moment of golden silence, but 3 very different responses from the other side, which is part of your diagnostic of who you're dealing with.
Right. This is so fascinating, and we're running out of time. I can't believe it. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna do a couple things. Chris, we always ask our guests to leave our listeners with a bit of inspiration, a bit of advice. No pressure. I'm sure you're gonna do this quite well. But what do you want to leave them with today?
The more you show people that you understand, the more you show appreciation and gratitude, the more they're going to give you. Like, this is a great skill. Tactical empathy is a great skill for the mercenary and the missionary. The mercenary, because you get more. You get more than you ever got being competitive when you're collaborative in an empathic way. You're going to get more. And you're going to enjoy it more. The people that you're around, you're going to lift them up. You're going to make them feel better. The missionary in you, just because you want to be a good human being, you want other people to feel compassion, then that satisfies you as a missionary. So if it's good for the mercenary and the missionary, it works better than anything else, and you get great long-term relationships. Both of those are possible. Just taking the time to use tactical empathy, applied emotional intelligence.
Yeah, no, I think, when you lead with gratitude, so much comes from it, you're just so right, because if you're leading that way, people, they don't have a problem giving it to you, or if they do, they're going to tell you why. I'm so sorry. I really want to,
Yeah. It's a friend of mine would say it's one of life's game theory optimums is gratitude.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing and the last Yes. The last thing is, where can people find you? How do they get to this class on May 15th? Where is it?
BlackSwanLTD.com. BlackSwanLTD.com. That'll dial you right into our Deal Maker Day. And we've got a lot of other assets to help you get better. We're going to coach you to better outcomes. You just got to be coachable.
Yeah, got to be coachable. I'm coachable.
Number one.
Also, where did Black Swan come from?
In 2007, Nassim Nicholas Taleb wrote a book called The Black Swan about the impact of the highly improbable, or the little things that change everything. And we teach people negotiation skills that seem innocuous and completely change outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, he made somebody $1 million just by reading the book. So
yeah.
I think y'all should get it. I think y'all should get it. Get that book and make $1 million.
Amen.
Amen.
Get both the books. All right.
All the books, all the classes. Chris, thank you so much. Honestly, I did learn a lot, and it was just such a joy to have you. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
You guys were fun to talk to. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
Thanks for listening to Truth Works.